Thank you.
Yep, I just clicked it.
I
All right.
see,
Can't find my, yeah.
Ray Avery just joined us as well.
Oh, Avery, Ray, thanks for joining us this afternoon. There she is. All right, folks. So what we're going to do today is just kind of go over where we are. Obviously, mute button bottom left for those on the phone. It's your actual mute button on your phone. You have the chat feature there in the middle, which is the little bubble. Go ahead and put anything in there that you like. And we'll continue as we go forward. When speaking, just please try to identify yourself. And now this meeting is being recorded, so we will be able to offer it later on. All right, so we're just going to go over briefly kind of where we're at right now and the timeline. We already did welcome and introductions. If you all had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last meeting, great. If not, I'll give you a minute real quick to do that. And if so, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Stephanie Ingram, so moved.
Thanks, Stephanie. Do I have a second?
Danielle was second.
Awesome, thank you. Stephanie taught us a trick last time and I'm not remembering it, but
It was,
Without objection, the motion to approve the minutes will be carried.
without objection, the motion to approve the minutes will be carried.
And then ask for objection.
Are there any objections?
And just say hearing none, the motion's approved.
Hearing none, the motion is approved, and I'd like to thank my memory for remembering that Stephanie taught us that, and for Stephanie for reteaching me all of that. Thank you. All right, we will head on to the next slide. All right, so just to kind of review our charge, we've been at this for quite some time and came to a good place before COVID, made a few changes since, and have continued to kind of ideate and make a few things along the way. But the charge is to review the local data along with best practice research to create recommendations for recruitment, retention, and equitable allocation of diverse and high quality educators in the city of Wilmington. So we've been doing a great job at that. And one thing we want to try to focus on today is just looking at the timeline moving forward. So we want to go over the implementation plan, the recommendations that will be in the implementation plan that will be presented at the Reading Consortium on October 22nd. And then we'll make any changes, the working group will meet in November. At that point, that will be kind of our last hurrah before we do the final presentation and vote at the December 10th Reading Consortium meeting. So with that today, we're gonna kind of try to break into some groups and try to continue this work. Go ahead, Noelle.
So we're going to work in two separate breakout rooms. We will review the implementation plan. You're going to get a link to the Google Docs, and we're going to spend 15 to 20 minutes on each plan.
mhm.
And Kelly, I'm wondering how you're going to share the link to everyone. You're
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, so
There's a
once
link
we-
for each one.
Okay, got it. Because once we go to the breakout room, sometimes we lose access to those links in the chat. So I would recommend that everybody open it or copy the link before you go to the breakout room, just in case that happens. And then after 15 to 20 minutes, we'll return to the group and share out the highlights. I have one other technical question, Kelly. Can participants share their screens? So in the breakout rooms, can multiple people share so we can put that up on the screen?
They should be able to.
Okay, great. So we're gonna make sure we have the links to the Google Docs, open those up before we go to the breakout rooms. Somebody is welcome to share. Welcome to have a note taker there if you'd like to gather everybody's thoughts. Any questions before we go to the groups, kind of about what you're talking about, what your task is?
Okay, so
Okay, so yeah, if there's no questions, and of course, if you have any questions, you can always ask Mike and I will be in the two groups. We should be able to answer your questions. And we really welcome everybody's feedback and thoughts.
So,
go ahead.
Noelle, it's 4:45. What time do you want, should everybody expect to be pulled out?
Could we do that at 5:05?
Hmm.
You said it so there's a warning so that they know when there's 60 seconds left.
Yes. Sorry, I'm going through and assigning people right now.
Okay.
Mike. All right, I'm going to assign the other group. One more. All right, I am going to move everybody over to their rooms.
Secretary Bunting, how are you?
I'm good. Long day.
I'm sure they all are at this point.
We had a governor's press conference, which added to the day.
They must be on mountain time. Oh, here they go.
We have everybody back? Well, almost.
Never mind, Mike. It came back. It came back. Thank you. I was still in my audio was still in the breakout room the whole time.
Are you okay? All right, cool.
It's like one of those sci-fi movies when you teleport, but not all of your pieces get to the same place.
It's like, wow, that's a technical question I wasn't ready for, but I'm sure we can figure this out. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I hope everyone got some good feedback there in the breakout groups. I guess now, Kelly, we're just going to kind of go over that feedback and go over next steps, correct?
Yep. Mike, does your group want to start? And I'll just share the implementation plan.
Sure. Go ahead and, yeah, if you can put that up.
Yeah.
Kid playing the card game War right next to me, so I apologize if I keep moving over. All right. All right. So there's the implementation plan. We talked in good depth about this one. Everyone kind of reached out to the different groups that they were supposed to. Fran made a good point of maybe getting connected with Jenny Percucci. Is that how I pronounce that name? In December and January as kind of a good path moving forward as well for that. One thing we really talked about in depth was kind of connecting the programs and different groups and trying to help maybe facilitate kind of meetings together to kind of figure out who's doing what and how it's going so that everyone also isn't working in parallel on similar goals. So that was something that we talked in depth about and really kind of creating that as a feeder pattern. We did kind of have the question of other folks outside of U of D, kind of the alternative route for certifications and potential inequities on those alternative routes. So ultimately trying to, make sure that we can increase the income potential and other auxiliary benefits for teachers of color that are willing to take these things on. So that's kind of what we talked about. And then we also had a couple questions for UD that Fran and Abigail took back. And also we just had a question about Del State, kind of are they going into the high schools? Tell us about kind of their college days that they had, things of that nature, so we can kind of get a better understanding to wrap our heads around that.
Is that something you want to talk about now or just?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yeah. So we've done some campus visits DSU has. So last year it was, not much of that is happening now, but last year we were able to do that. And we have visited a few high schools as well. So we've hosted days where students could come on campus. We had William Penn, we had Caesar Rodney, we've had Sussex Tech. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, we actually had William Penn down one year, and another year we went up there to their teacher academies. So there has been some of that where we're connecting with those academy students. And actually what we do when we do those visits is we do a mix of sharing with them the program. We also have them talk to the actual students or themselves. We arrange for a panel of DSU students to talk with them. We kind of sit on the perimeter, and then we also do a campus tour, and they have lunch on campus and all that sort of thing. Those were the good old days.
Yes.
Yep. So were there things that you had in particular on what you would like those visits to look like if we were pushing into schools, or is that just something for, further thought?
Yeah, something for further
Yeah.
thought.
Yep, we're happy to think through that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing.
Mhm.
Detail, but yeah, we didn't get across that part.
When we visited schools, we took students with us also. So it really made the visit super helpful. The students, we took a panel of our students to talk to their students. So it was very much focused on we talked programmatically, but we really did allow them to have a student to student conversation, high school to college student. And they really did. They really were well received.
Yeah, I would agree. Anytime you can get them on campus is always a good thing.
Absolutely, right. We had, a couple young men, when we do the tours, we let the students tour with them, and we're kind of like way distance behind to let them feel like they're kind of doing their own thing. But a couple of times I just overheard them saying, wow, I can't believe I'm on a college campus. This is the first time I've, stepped foot on a college campus. And the one young man is interested in the arts. And so I remember him kind of like, as we were leaving, I just kind of saw him walking around on the stage and kind of, I just wondered what was going on in his head as he was walking around, kind of envisioning himself pursuing his dreams of studies there. And he was just kind of taken in that space, and it was pretty cool. So we like to give them their space to explore.
You guys have like pipeline programs with specific high schools or anything to help in that capacity as well, drive people?
A pipeline program per se, not especially for Del State. No, not yet. I mean, we were just trying to, leverage the academies to create a general pipeline, but we don't have a specific one where it's like students are, kind of, pre-major and, starting their experience early, specifically into education, not branded as such. But the academies, of course, are a pipeline for all of us. So we would actually like to further define that. One of the goals that we had pre-COVID was actually to do this specifically for male teachers, Black and Hispanic males in particular, to get into teaching.
Okay.
And elementary in particular too, but that's something that kind of has been put on the back burner with some of the other things we've been doing over the past 10 months, or 7-8 months, whatever it's been here. But that is something that we have a well thought out plan for how we will go about doing that when we're able to return to that strategic plan.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Noelle. You can kind of dive into yours if you would like.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So some of the questions and ideas that we had were around the criteria that we're using to identify the schools who are eligible for this program. A long time back, I think maybe a year ago, we had looked at a chart, and Kelly said that's included in the email to everyone today, the chart that shows the different indicators of high need schools as far as students on IEPs, students of color, students who are ESL, students with disabilities, and income levels, students on free and reduced lunch. So I might not have said all of them right now, but basically we're looking at those criteria to make sure that this money is not going to schools that already are pretty heavily resourced. So the second question that came up was really about the RFP, which the schools could submit, those eligible schools. Basically, what would they be submitting? And Kelly, I'm not quite understanding what that note was. Make sure it is clear that schools, okay, schools are the ones who are submitting the RFP. Got it. Thank you. I know you were typing quickly. Thank you so much. So basically that they would take the initiative to want to be part of this program, the eligible schools. We also talked some about, how we had identified that school leadership was often one of the biggest problems with teacher retention. And then that leads to, of course, high rate of teacher turnover. And that's definitely one of the biggest indicators of student success, is whether high quality teachers are staying at the school. So how can we make sure that we're surveying the teachers about the climate? And that's all the way back to the, selecting the school. Then as we go, we continue to survey the teachers. We talked a lot about what does success look like, and we added some ideas to that as far as retention of teachers of color, which we know that is part of the Grow Our Own initiative, and also that the Office of Inclusion is working on that. But we're wondering if that specifically could be monitored within the schools that we work with, to see if there's a higher recruitment and retention of teachers of color as well, and looking at teacher turnover in general. So if there are any questions or ideas from the other breakout group that didn't get to comment on this, I'd like to give a moment for people to be able to put in the chat or unmute yourself any additional things that we could add to this to clarify.
Noelle, this is Jim. One of the things that I know we talked about prior to, and I didn't hear it mentioned tonight, and I apologize. I was a little bit late. I had another something I had to attend prior to. But anyway, I think we've got to also look at the mentoring program, and that has to be done differently in those buildings than it does. I don't want to say like that there's a standard mentoring program, but we've got to look at the supports that we're giving them in order to remain, especially when they're new teachers in that first 5 years. That's hard for all teachers, right? But it's especially hard in those high need schools. So I think we've got to look at the rigor of that. And maybe it's just the agenda of the mentoring program for teachers in those buildings, in those high need schools.
So Jim, just to repeat back to you to make sure I've got this, you're referring to within these particular schools that we'd be working with, making sure that they have a rigorous, robust mentoring program for the new teachers. It calls to mind for me, I've been in schools where the mentorship system was not, the structure was not fully in place, and like the mentor was not really there for me, or I didn't really know who to go to if I had an issue. And you're saying to also look at that specifically as a category to make sure they have a strong mentorship program. Is that correct?
Correct. And again, I think it needs to be for all new teachers, but especially those in high need schools where we're seeing such a high turnover rate.
Yeah, and so when we're looking at these professional learning packages, like basically that there would be support for all teachers, but that resources would be also, that we would concentrate on how teachers, veteran teachers, were supporting those younger teachers as well. And another thing I think it was Shelley brought up before, it was either Stephanie or Shelley, I don't remember, but about how often those schools are bereft of having veteran teachers. There's a lot of like very young teachers all in one place with nobody to mentor them. So I'm wondering too if that can look at like having mentors from outside of the school as well, if needed. And I see from Maureen, make sure strong mentorship does not just mean more paperwork, but support with what those teachers say they need. So again, teacher input as far as what the mentees need. Thank you, Maureen, for bringing that up. Just like we had said from the beginning, the professional learning package should not look like more PowerPoints that you have to go through. It should be actual support. Any other ideas, questions? Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
If not, I would like to tag also Miss Ray's question that I'm sorry, Ray. I'm so used to seeing you in the dance studio. So Ray's question about the languaging, when we're talking about in the actual recommendations, when we're saying teachers of color, we talked about this last time, but we actually want to make sure that we are saying teachers that represent the students in the school, and also that we want to make sure that there are teachers who have been historically underrepresented in the teaching profession, to make sure that those teachers are supported, so that we're not just saying teachers of color, but we're saying, for example, like Shelley brought up, Black male teachers, Latino male teachers, like that. I think it's called the 2% Project, where they have that national program where they're trying to recruit and retrain Black male teachers, especially in elementary school, especially because elementary school is where we see the highest leverage as far as making sure the student success in the long run. And so Ray brought that up. And also we looked at the language again, because we haven't really gone back to edit that yet. And there's a lot of use of the word diversity, which I do want to call out just to make sure that, and Carlin brought up just to make sure that's more specific. I worry that there are certain words that are a way of avoiding talking about something and kind of ensure that nothing happens. And I feel like diversity is often one of those words that's used to sidestep the actual conversation. So we need to be very clear, especially for writing legislation, that we're saying exactly what we mean. Otherwise, resources can go to the wrong places, very realistically. So diversity actually means that we want lots of diverse people represented. It doesn't mean Black male educators because they are underrepresented. That's equity, and we need to really be specific. So ideas about that, we wanted to bring that back to the whole group rather than just talk about it in our group. And Ray, if I misrepresented anything or you want to add anything, please feel free to jump in.
Would anybody be willing to meet just to kind of go through the documents so that any place that the word diversity comes up, we make sure we define that? I think that it really is a matter of, like, you know, passing a comb through it and making sure we, the language and the narrative is the same throughout, based on the purpose of our work.
So if I heard Carlin, were you saying, would somebody want to meet to go through and go line by line? And I'm willing to meet with whomever would like to do that with us.
Okay, I'm in.
I have to be honest with you, like, we put together a lot of language in these meetings, and there's a lot of documents sent out, and sometimes we just really miss things. Like, there was something that last meeting that I realized that we had missed. And I think depending on who's typing it up, the languaging ends up not necessarily being exactly what we were saying based on a point, whoever point of perspective it is. So I think that would be great, Carlin. I really appreciate that.
As long as it's before November, mid-November, I'm good. Because this baby is coming, ready or not.
Any other thoughts or ideas about that, or anyone else want to be part of going through to really tighten up that languaging? I'm thinking, I don't know, Kelly, if we want to do that for October 22nd for that date, or for the December 10th date. I'm thinking probably sooner is better than later.
Sooner probably is better.
Yeah, so is there anybody else who would be willing to work on that?
And Ms. Avery, if you're not able to join this group, if you could just give your recommendations, because I wanted to make sure I captured everything you said and recommended in your comments when we were in the smaller breakout group.
Yeah, and I'm down to do this as well, what Carlin was suggesting, going through, and Maureen says she can help as well. So, I think we can knock that out, and especially paying attention to anywhere that it says diversity or color, people of color or teachers of color, as a way that's like too vague. And I saw that Mike a minute ago, I think, had to step away for a call. Kelly, I'm not sure how we're doing with the agenda and time.
Right. I mean, we have a half an hour left, and then I'll share my screen if I can get this to show. Hold on. So we are on so just the next steps. For the next meetings, it's like Mike meant, Representative Smith mentioned before, October 22nd is the consortium meeting from 5 to 7. November 12th, the work group will reconvene at 4:30.
Ryan.
The work group will reconvene to go through and answer any of the questions that the consortium may have at the October 22nd meeting. And then in between meetings, we can send information back and forth to you all. And public comment.
So we're pretty much on track to finish early, it looks like. Okay, so we'll move on. We're ready to move on to public comment. Did anybody sign up to do public comment, or we're just going to open it up?
There have been no signups.
Okay, well, I think we could probably open it up for a minute and see if anyone would like to contribute. Yeah, I was just flipping through. I think there are very few people here who are not in the work group already. So I'm down to finish early if we're done. I know the original intention was for both groups to go through both documents, which we did not do. But I would just encourage everybody, if you have any other thoughts that after a little while germinating on it or taking some more time to read the other document that you didn't talk about in your breakout room, please feel free to just email Kelly with your comments and ideas. Otherwise, we'll be presenting this on October 22nd. We'll be in touch with Carlin and Maureen, and I will get in touch with Kelly to kind of just go through the document. And really tighten up that languaging to say what we mean. And other than that, I don't always remember how to do these beginnings and ends of meetings things because I typically run a class of little people. So whatever that thing is that we're supposed to say at the end, like adjourning and stuff.
You can say again, without objections, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, so without objections, Mike's back. He could do this part.
Oh, I could have done that. I learned that.
Take it away, Mike. You take it.
Without any objections, this meeting is adjourned. Do I hear any objections at this time?
Fran O'Malley has an objection. No, I'm just kidding.
Of course you do, Fran. The guy stuck in the jungle has the objection over there. All right. Well, it's good to see everyone virtually. Everyone be well. And look forward to seeing you all in about 2 more weeks. And we'll talk to you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.